property on 124 Main Street this afternoon. Is there anything I should know before showing? The reason that I call is because a lot of times the listing agent will give you more information when you are on the phone with them than when you are texting them. And every interaction that I have with the listing agent is an interaction, is an opportunity for me to build rapport with that listing agent. So I've showed the property. My clients have decided that there's one that they want to write an offer in. Before I submit my offer, before I sit down to write my offer, I am going to call the listing agent. Now, sometimes in the private remarks, I have seen agents say, text, don't call. I'm not saying that you should go against their direct wishes. If they have directly requested that you text them, by all means text them. But if that is not their direct instructions, then pick up the phone and call them and ask them these questions. How has the activity been? Do you have any offers? Do you have a date to review offers, or will you be reviewing them as they come in? What is your preferred escrow company? Besides the price, is there anything else that is important to the sellers or that they would like to see in an offer? I need to edit my slides because this one right here, have you had a conversation with the seller regarding buyer's agent compensation? We are no longer asking that question, so please cross that out. If you printed up the slides, do me a favor and get a Sharpie and put a big line through that, because we're not asking that of the listing agent. We are putting our request in the RPA. And then any other bonus questions. And what I mean by that is this is your opportunity to build rapport with the listing agent. So anything that kind of comes up, take that as your opportunity. Now, why am I asking these questions? Why am I taking the time to call the listing agent and ask them if they have any offers, if they have a date to review? Anybody, just go ahead and unmute or put it in the chat. All right, nobody knows. It's a mystery. Perfect. Then I'm glad you're sitting here in the class. So when I am putting, it's our job, says David. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know I'm not just talking into the ether.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
it is
don't
our
know.
job, but how, oh, hey, Jordan.
Hi
Uh,
there.
how I structure the offer, what strategy we use is going to be dependent on, am I up against another offer?
I
If
see.
they're reviewing offers as they come in, then I need to make sure that if they're reviewing offers as offers come in, well, that means I have the opportunity to write a really strong offer up front. If I know that they're going to wait and set a date, I might structure my offer a little bit differently. Now, the reason that on the listing side, when I take a listing, I always use our preferred escrow company. But on the buying side, my goal is to write an offer that is not going to have to be countered. So I ask them what their preferred escrow company is, because most of the listing agents in my market, they have already requested their preliminary title report and they have already pre-opened escrow. So in that case, I want to make sure that I'm including what that preferred escrow company is on my RPA so that it's one less thing to get countered. It's one less thing that would potentially need to be countered. And then besides price, is there anything else that's important to the sellers? So this is where you kind of get some information. This is where the listing agent might tell you something like, well, they're really stressed out about everything that they have to move out. Well, maybe I have clients that don't mind cleaning up remaining personal property, or maybe the client says they have a really close timeline with where they're moving and they need a shortened escrow. Or maybe they need a longer escrow. If I don't ask that question, I'm not going to know. Maybe 30 days is convenient for me or for my clients, but maybe the seller 30 days is going to put them into a panic and they need more time. And so if I have that option and I can talk to my clients and say, hey, the seller actually needs a little bit more time. Are you okay doing a 45-day escrow? And they say, sure, no problem. Well, now that's just one more check in my to on the side of my offer, that my offer is more in line with what the sellers are looking for. So I want to make sure that I'm keeping in mind my offer is not just price, it's price and it's the terms. So length of escrow is a very important term. All right, moving on. Now these are some questions for you. So you're putting together this offer, and guaranteed your client is going to ask you, well, what should we offer? So, again, as with listing, I typically steer away from telling them this is the price. I steer away from giving them an exact price, because if you tell them, I think you should make this offer for 700,000 and then your offer doesn't get accepted, well, now they're mad at you that you gave them the wrong price. So, I like to give a range. I think if we offer anywhere between X and Y, I think that's a good place. I'm comfortable between this range. How do I know what that range is? You have to do a CMA. You don't need to go through, I'm not saying that you need to go through and do a whole beautiful CMA presentation for your clients, but this is where I really like to utilize the CMA function on MLS, because I like to do a check, see what else is on the market, and then make sure I know how that property is priced. How long has a property been on the market? Um, I once had a listing that had been on the market for about 30 days, and I had just had a conversation with the seller, and I told him that it was about time that we do a price reduction. And then I ended up getting an offer, and I got an offer for about $10,000 over list price. There was absolutely no reason that that buyer's agent should have written that offer $10,000 over list price. I mean, we took it. I was thrilled for my client, but a property with no other offers on the table on the market for 30 plus days, you don't have to go over on that one. So knowing the stats of the listing is really important when you're guiding. Remember, we have a fiduciary duty to our clients to guide them to make an offer that makes sense. And then the other thing is, have you checked in with the lender and do you have a pre-approval letter ready? So the practice that I have always done is making sure the lenders that I've worked with always customize the pre-approval to match the offer price of the home. If my client is pre-approved for 850, but I'm only offering we're offering 750 on a particular property, I don't necessarily want the seller to see that we can afford more than that, because I think that that's going to affect whether they accept my offer or whether they counter it. So I always talk to the lender and I get a new pre-approval letter at the price that we are submitting the offer in. The other thing is that as a newer agent, you might not understand all of the properties that your client's particular loan program can match for. So, for example, if you have a VA buyer and you are writing a property on a manufactured home in a park, that's not a property that will work with a VA loan. So it's really important that you, especially in the beginning, that you have a conversation with your lender and that the property that they are making an offer on will work for the type of loan that they are doing. If your client is doing, say, a USDA loan that's for rural homeownership and they're offering something in a very population dense city, well, that's not going to work. So we need to have that information. And then have your clients sent over proof of funds. So the reason that you by the contract, you do have 3 days to submit your pre-approval letter and your proof of funds. But for me, I think it's very important, because the majority of listing agents typically tend to have more than one listing at once. Listing agents are busy. They have a lot going on, especially if they price a really hot property and there's a lot of offers. Their phone is ringing off the hook. They're answering all kinds of questions. They're just trying to keep everything straight. So I want to make sure that when I'm submitting my offer, I have a very nice offer package ready to go. So my offer submission is not just the purchase agreement. It also includes proof of funds and it also includes the pre-approval letter. And I send them all together in one email. I don't piecemeal them out to the listing agent. I want it to be a nice package. I'm trying to show that agent every step of this process, from how I act on the phone when I'm setting up the showing to how I submit my offer, is giving the listing agent an indication of how easy I'm going to be to work with. It's very important. You have a reputation to establish as a real estate agent, and you want to establish a reputation of being level-headed, detail oriented, organized. That is going to make people more likely. It's if it comes down to the wire and there's two offers that are very, very close, if you have a good reputation as an agent, you're going to make the listing agent help lean more towards your offer. And I know this is true because I've had it happen. Tessa, we took your offer because I know you. I don't know the other agent. So you want to make sure you have all these details together so that you can really you can present that offer in a nice, neat little package, right? It's Christmas time. Let's give them a great present. Okay, so here we go step by step. So we confirmed that our clients want to write an offer. Even before we write the offer, we tell them, hey, I'm going to check in with the other agent. I'm going to make sure that we can write the strongest offer possible. While my clients are waiting for me, because they're excited, they want to get that offer written, I want to give them a job. So they're waiting for me to touch back in with them to let them know how the conversation with the agent went. That's when I tell them to make sure that they send me over their proof of funds if I don't already have it. I call the listing agent, I ask my questions, I call the lender, and I let the lender know that I'm going to write the offer, address, price. I get the updated pre-approval letter. I confirm down payment and loan amount. I also, your lender is your teammate on this. And so a good lender should also be able to help you strategize a little bit if you need it. Your lender might be able to say, oh, well, you know, let's do this strategy instead of that one. Or your lender might remind you that they need credit for closing costs that you had forgotten about. So you really want to keep your lender involved in communicating with this process. You do your CMA, you come up with the appropriate price range. You have a conversation with your clients, you discuss the terms of the offer. And I will usually, if I'm working in my marketplace, I work with a lot of first-time home buyers. The first offer that we write, I always want to try to do that in person with them, and I want to have a copy, a blank offer, a blank purchase agreement pulled up so that I can go over it with them as we speak. But if it's the second or third offer that we've written and I'm communicating with them over the phone, I make sure that I have the offer pulled up just so that I don't miss anything else. Okay, we confirm the details. We draft the email to the listing agent. When I say draft, I have some samples in there, so you want to make sure that you download the slides because I have a few sample emails. But when you send the RPA for signing, something that I have seen, I've received many offers like this. I received offers where I'm the listing agent and the buyer's agent set up the digital signature envelope so that I just received a copy of the offer when it was signed. So the only way I knew I had an offer was that happened to go to my regular inbox and not my spam inbox, because a lot of times it goes right to the spam inbox. Please, 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 when you are submitting an offer to the listing agent, you are making a first impression. Do not set it up so that your offer just goes automatically to the listing agent, because now they have to piece together your offer. Then they have to figure out Now you've sent them another email with your pre-approval letter. They've got to put it all together. We want to make it easy for them, right? Once you have everything signed, you have your email drafted, you submit all that to the listing agent. Make sure that you text the listing agent and let them know that you sent an offer over. The reason is many of us have things that go into our spam folder. Sometimes people are on vacation. I just want to make sure, because I'm doing my best representation for my clients, that I have let the other agent know that they have an offer that's waiting for them. And then be patient, but follow up until you get a response. So if you haven't shortened um, the response period and the agent has 3 days to respond, and you submit the offer on day one in the morning, you're probably not going to get a response that afternoon. I would, if they have confirmed that they received your offer, I'm not going to touch base with them until probably the next day. And then I'm just going to shoot them over a text. Hey, did you have any questions about our offer? Was there anything I could clarify for you? That way they know that we're still there and we're still interested, but I'm not nagging them, because I've seen this on the other side where the agent is so excited. Maybe it's their first offer that they've ever submitted, and they're like bombarding. Will we get a response? When are you going to respond? What did the seller say? What did they think about the offer? Don't be that agent. Be calm, cool, level-headed, have patience, but follow up respectfully. Remember, my general rule of thumb, whenever you're following up with somebody, whether it's a client or an agent, I alternate my methods of communication. So if I send them a text, then my next is going to be a phone call and then an email. Or if I send them a phone, if I call them, then I'm going to follow up with a text, and then my next method will be an email. I always kind of rotate my way through. I once had an agent tell me, "Oh, I'm trying to get a hold of the listing agent. They're not calling me back. I've called them like 4 times today." You mean to tell me that that listing agent is looking at their phone and they see 4 missed calls from you? Is it an emergency? No. We all have a smartphone. It keeps track of the missed calls. They will call you back. You don't want to come across as desperate and needy, because they're going to be like, oh man, is this how the whole transaction is going to go? Okay, here's a few samples of the emails that I kind of put together for the listing agent. The main reason that I have this one here that starts with Jennifer is, and this is a real one that I sent, was because my clients were doing an FHA loan, and there was some of the exterior paint was a little bit flaky, and there was an issue with the flooring in the bathroom. And I wanted the listing agent to know that I had a plan in place, because with an FHA loan, there's certain things that have to be done in order for that to go through. No flooring is a really big one. So there was concrete floor in the primary bathroom. So I'd had a conversation with the lender. They had seen everything. They told me that they didn't see it was going to be a problem. And I just wanted to make sure that I reiterated that to the listing agent. If there's something that could potentially go wrong, let them know that you know that too, and that you have a plan in place. The other thing is that with this, we are not allowed to submit best practices, that we do not submit buyer love letters with our offers anymore. But one of the things that's changed a little bit for me, while I can't submit a letter about the buyer that's giving any of their protected classes, there's nothing stopping me from saying a little bit about myself. So I definitely try to butter the listing agent up a little bit by saying, oh, I would love the opportunity to work with you. And I always end by saying, I'm a good communicator and I get my deals closed. I usually will put a little bit about myself just so that they know I don't I do think it makes a difference. So I can't really say anything about, my wonderful family that wants to buy this home, but I can say something about myself and how I operate. So I always try to do that. I have this as just a risk management thing. When you are sending offers, when you send anything through a digital signature program, whether you're using a DocuSign, AuthentiSign, if you're using Glide, DigiSign, whatever it is, I put this verbiage in every single time. And I know it's a pain, but I always name the envelope with the address and what it is that I'm sending. I say, here is the offer as we discussed, because I'm alluding to the fact that we have had a conversation that this is not just something that I came up with on my own. I tell them to read it and review it. If they have any questions, I leave my phone number and my email. Yes, I type my phone number and my email in every single envelope that I send. And then I tell them once they approve, please complete the DigiSign process. I changed it a little bit now. I say digital signature process. My reasoning is because one time I saw an agent, I was helping him with some paperwork, and he went to send it to his client. And before I could say anything, he just wrote, please sign, and then hit send. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a risk management nightmare. I want to make sure that my client knows that I'm asking them to read, review, reach out with questions, and only sign upon approval. I don't ever want something to come back on me where the client says, well, you told me to sign it, so I signed it. Okay. And then I just have a few words to win with. So when you're having your communications with the listing agent, you really want to steer away from you statements. Man, how do you come up with that pricing on that listing? Or you always get these listings, right? Those can be inflammatory statements. Another thing is you don't want to refer to your clients as mine, my buyer, my seller, my client. Say the buyer, the seller. Again, it's a little tweak, but it really makes a difference in how your communication is perceived. Don't insult or antagonize the listing agent. Again, whew, did you take those pictures yourself? They're okay. They're whatever. Don't do that, right? It doesn't matter if they're not the greatest photos. You don't want to do something to kind of set the listing agent off, on edge in the beginning, and then give genuine compliments. So, if I'm writing an offer, man, this is a really nice listing. Man, those pictures came out really great. Man, you really nailed the pricing. This is really popular. Just something. We all are fairly vain people, and a genuine people, we like to hear compliments about ourselves. Again, I'm not, I realize that this could sound like I'm trying to manipulate the listing agent. I'm not trying to manipulate, but I am trying to give genuine compliments and truly build rapport. So that is 45 minutes, and that is what our session allows for. So I think that I'm going to have to do a part two with the actual purchase agreement, with the RPA section of it, because I know that that's important. So part two to come. But before I sign off, does anybody have any questions or comments?
Now, when you do the RPA, the actual form, maybe
Yeah.
go through the CMA thing on the MLS, like how to do a quick one on the MLS.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will just record you a little
Okay.
I will make sure that you do that. I know we have you for the class. I probably won't spend time doing it on the class because not everybody uses CRMLS. We
Gotcha.
have other MLSs. Um, Miriam, the slides are in the chat, but I will attach it again in case you joined late and maybe didn't see them.
Hey Tessa, this is Sam. I have a question about the like the pre-approval letter going back. I assume there's plenty of situations where somebody may have, millions of dollars, but they're buying a $700,000 home for their son or daughter or whoever. And they can clearly afford a $2 million house, let's say. Um, I see what you're saying about, okay, the person's going to, you don't want them to try to keep escalating the price on you, but does that in effect look better that you are certainly able to afford a much larger home and have the funds to follow through?
There's definitely different strategies, and you're going to find out the one that makes sense for you, because proof of funds is also that's up to you. I just my practice is that I make it whatever the offer price is, but I typically will put something like, I think, in if I go back to my other email, I think right here, on the one that says Cindy, you can see that I have said that oh shoot, sorry. The buyers are well qualified. So I typically use that term whenever they're in a really good spot. And the other thing is, a lot of times I almost always CC the lender when I submit that offer to the listing agent, and I encourage them to reach out to the lender with any questions, or sometimes I'll ask the lender to give the agent a call and just reiterate, these clients are well qualified, this isn't going to be a problem. It's kind of how I address that. I've also seen if your client has a lot of money and it's a cash purchase, they can get a letter that just says, this client has in excess of blank in their accounts, or more, sufficient funds to cover this purchase. That way they have a documented proof of funds letter from their financial institution, but it does not show what their balances are.
Excellent. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions? All right. Well, I will touch base with Robert. I will get part 2 on the calendar. Download the slides. As always, reach out to me. I will put my century21masters.com. That is my email. And that is my phone number. You can always feel free to give me a call if you need clarification or if you have any other questions. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy
Thank you,
holidays.
Tessa.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, Tessa. Thanks so much.